Well, welcome to the Collab Team. Yeah, Ops Experts Club. We're here with the powerful Josh Bear. Good to see you, man. Good to see everybody today. How are you guys doing this morning?
Quite
Good.
well.
Yep. Staying busy.
Good, Josh, man. So good to have you on Ops Experts Club. I know this is like me texting you. I'm like, hey, man, so what do you think about joining us? And how about this next week? So I know I kind of popped this one on you. I appreciate you being willing to jump in so last minute and just be an excellent guest on the show. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, maybe you're unaware of who Josh is, maybe you're unaware of what Wealth Accelerators Global is. WAG is a client of ours, a high level retainer client of ours. We only carry a few each season. And we've been so privileged. Ben and I are both on the team for the WAG guys. We're just so privileged to be linked up with guys doing really powerful things. Like it's one of the few L10s that Ben and I have frequently over the last year got off the call and said, "What do those guys do?" That's so complex. Like they've got so much complexity of the different ways that they've reached out. It's almost like an octopus. So many different legs that are like stretched out in so many different areas of business that at first blush you would be like, how do any of those things have anything in common? But they've done a great job at linking people together, raising up a powerful team to support it. And then I know the Collab team has been so privileged just to come in alongside of WAG and Josh, you and both Mike Sancho, the CEO, just to come and kind of help outline EOS and L10 meetings and frame it up for the company. Welcome to Ops Experts Club. And if I load up funky, Ben, you're taking over. So God bless you.
Just a little funky.
Good to have you today, Josh.
Just
I'm
a
excited
little
to hear
funky.
from you as
So
well.
Yep. No, I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on. Aaron, like you said, hit me up last minute last week. I think it was like Friday night. I was like, "Hey, man, are you free?" And I was like, "Not really, but what we got going on?" So I'm glad I was able to we were able to find a time that works for both of us, and I'm excited to be here.
awesome, man. Well, maybe tell us a little bit about WAG, like fill in the guests, like they're tuning in. I think one of the greatest things about Ops Experts Club this iteration, we did 35 weeks of content. That's always something that we're selling to people as far as for them to get 35 weeks on how to level up your operations. That's what Ops Experts Club Vault is all about. We've moved into this session now where it's more podcast style, where we're interviewing excellent badasses in the industry when it comes to operations. So, Josh, you want to talk to us just maybe a little bit about what WAG is and what you do at WAG?
Yeah. So WAG, we're a company that essentially manages businesses for our clients. So we'll have clients that come in and they want to run an Amazon store. They want some sort of passive income, and we have different investment vehicles that allow them to kind of tap into our expertise in these different industries. And then we go ahead and take over the business. And essentially, we're the operations team behind that business, and they're the capital backing behind the business. So an example is we might have a client that has money laying around just in their bank or whatever, right? And they're not doing anything with it. Well, and they don't know how to do anything with it. We'll actually take that money and we can turn that into inventory, and then we'll run an Amazon store for them, and then we work off of a profit share. So they give us money, we take our distribution company, and I can get a little bit more into the weeds on kind of how all this stuff ties in together when we talk about the bigger picture of WAG. But we run it through our distribution company. They go out, they get the wholesale pricing on things. We'll buy it in bulk. We'll send it off into their store, and then as that product sells, then the clients are making profit, and then we invoice for a profit share percentage off of whatever we're making our clients. So that's like, and we have different industries and different models, but that's the Amazon in a nutshell, kind of high level view of what it is that we do here at WAG.
I
For
think
my, what was
lest
that?
anybody think Aaron's like a dummy, and they're like, "How is that not simple?" Because that was like the most straightforward explanation I've ever heard in my entire life of the best business plan ever. Tell it.
I lost you a little bit there, Aaron, on the back end, but I'll go into like me. So basically, what I do here at WAG, I'm the COO of WAG. WAG owns 17 other companies. So of those 17 other companies, I more so oversee and provide support and operations within those companies. A lot of those companies self-stand. So they have their own CEO, they have their own COO, they have their own operations team, they run their own payroll. Like they're their own, they're essentially their own company that falls under the umbrella of WAG. And then we kind of oversee and provide support where needed. And then we have a smaller set of those companies where we are directly the CEO, the COO, the operations team, the back end, the financing, the whole thing. And those ones are more of our client facing uh, businesses, if you will. So yeah, we do. I mean, that's kind of what I do for WAG and kind of where I lie. Um, it's a fun thing to do. Honestly, it keeps me busy. I stay extremely busy, I would say, but I enjoy it. I left what most people would call retirement to come and work in this business. So I wouldn't do that if I didn't enjoy it.
I love it. You do it so well, man.
I try. I try.
So, I mean, obviously, Ben and I are in the day to day. I know, Karen, we've tried to pull you into a couple different projects over time. Like, any questions you guys have for Josh along those lines, or and then Josh, we can get into just content that you'd like to share with us, man, when it comes to um, lessons learned and tips given and all those pieces.
Yep.
Yeah, my biggest question, Josh, is like, what? I mean, you guys are in so many different industries. What is like, how does it work when it comes to what you guys are deciding that WAG should be a part of when it comes to an industry? Is it a client approaches you and says, hey, we're in this trucking industry, or we're in the Amazon industry, we'd like to partner with you guys, or is it you guys are actively going out and saying, okay, we want to be a part of this industry or that industry, or we want to bring these types of clients into Wealth Accelerators? How does that decision making really work?
Yeah. So there's a lot of a lot of layers to that question. The simple answer is we look to be in industries that complement or support the businesses that we have going on. So, like
Gotcha.
I said, we started out as an Amazon FBA company, right, where we just ran Amazon FBA stores. And then what we ended up doing was we're like, well, let's get a distribution company, so that distribution company can then buy the products at a more wholesale of a price to then give it to the clients, and then
Hmm.
go out and make more profit, right? So it's we when we're looking for businesses, we're looking for businesses that instead of paying a distribution company to use them as a distribution company, we want to bring that in house and do it ourselves. So with that, we have a construction company because we do solar, right? So we started out with the solar stuff, and then we got a construction company that allows us to go into the houses and fix the HVACs and do different things like that. That complement the solar add-ons is what they're called. The APEC fee with the distribution, the Amazon with the distribution stuff is the same thing. With the logistics, we own a trucking company. Well, we're looking at a trucking school along with the trucking brokerage and trucking coaching, right? So all of that kind of complements the logistics um, lane, if you will. So when we're looking at different things that we could do as far as like different opportunities or businesses, typically what we're looking for is things that will complement the businesses that we're already hyper focused on in it.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. So you're not looking to get into like the coffee industry anytime soon.
Now, how profitable is the coffee industry?
No, that makes a
But
lot. That actually helps frame it up too, because I remember when we first came in with Wealth Accelerators, I was like, these are so many different industries. I don't like. It seemed random to me, but now that you say that, it makes total sense. Like if you're gonna be in Amazon, you also want distribution. Like bring everything in house is so smart. And I mean, it's taken me like 9 months to figure that out. But thanks for painting that picture for me.
it took us all, it took us all to figure it out, but here we are.
Now, Josh, I in a billing period will work for maybe about like 8 different clients and find that a little bit complex, hard to manage. So, how do you effectively serve 17 different companies under you? Um, proactively, or is a lot of it just reactive when they need help?
Um, Again, I think that goes both ways. I think it depends on the business. 95% of my time is sitting in the proactive, like this is where I spend my time, right? I spend my time mainly right now with Amazon, trucking, and solar. So like out of all the
Mhm.
companies I have, 95% of my time goes to those three companies. And then the rest of the time is more of a reactive, like when we need help in this area for this specific thing, because a lot of those other companies they fully operate on their own, and we're kind of like a oversight helping hand as they need it.
Gotcha.
But the majority of my time is I would say proactively sitting in, and helping our main um, business lines.
Nice.
Makes sense. I'm curious, what's been the biggest, not, I guess not to tattle on any of your 17 businesses, but what's been the biggest sort of industry you guys broke into where you're like, this would be a great idea, and you're like, oh man, this is way way bigger than we thought it was going to be.
Uh, no tattling needed, right? I think that the most complex of them all is definitely the trucking and logistics lane that we have.
Hmm.
Um, and we actually have five different verticals within that lane to make it all work. And that's why I say I think it's the most complex. We have a lot more people helping towards that industry that are only focused in that industry. We have a lot more operation needs. It's a lot more reliant on the economy with the gas prices rising and the fuel and the loads dropping. And there's a lot more economic pressure on that industry alone. Uh,
Yeah.
with the other companies, like solar, for example, solar is it's a selling based company, right? So we have a solar sales team. That's a pretty easy model. We
Yeah.
sell and it's profitable, right? There's not much that goes into it. With the Amazon, it's kind of the same thing, right? We know that things are going to sell on Amazon if we put them on Amazon. There's a little
Mhm.
bit of back end that goes back and forth with like making sure this is the right product, making sure that it's the margin is there, making sure Amazon's not the one on the selling on the listing, because Amazon has a way of squeezing profits out because
Mhm.
they have that ability to basically choose where who's going to get the sale. So there's like different little things within it, but when we talk about like what's the hardest, where we're like we got into trucking and we thought it was going to be like, oh, like just put trucks on the road and we're good to go.
Mhm.
There's a lot more that goes into just putting trucks on the road and we're good to go.
Well, I
So
imagine
and
too. I mean, you're probably dealing with. I know, yeah, like you said, Amazon's solar. You're just selling a product, but with trucking, I imagine you probably have to deal with a lot of state and federal regulation too, like a whole bunch more red tape. In that,
yeah.
it seems like in that industry versus just selling a product on Amazon.
Right, and you would think that you just put a truck on the road and it either makes money or it doesn't. But like you said, there's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of what a driver can do, what they can't do, where they can pull, where they can't pull, what they can pull and what they can't pull. You know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of checks and balances, as there should be, right? You don't want drunk drivers sitting in a semi driving down the road. Like that's a recipe for disaster. So the regulations that are within trucking are obviously warranted. It's just a more complex
yeah,
industry for so
interesting.
not as easy to get a truck on the road and become profitable, but with the right connections and doing the right things and meeting the right people and having a we won't fail, we'll never quit mentality going into it, you end up making connections with right people where you thought like, oh dang, this truck can make 10,000 a month, and that's good. To where dang, we can make 40,000 a month with that same truck pulling something else, right? So you make different connections along the way, and it can actually become a lot more profitable than you thought, even though it is more complex than you had thought. So
Yeah.
there's like a take there as well.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I've never known much about the trucking industry because it does seem so massive. to even learn about. But it's kind of cool to see the inside or back end of it, just working with you guys through it. It's been pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that trucking as well is I don't know if people will make this comparison, but I think it's very similar to real estate, where like Amazon, there's like one way to make money, right? You put a product in and it sells, right? And really the name of the game with Amazon is how cheap can I buy it and how expensive can I sell it,
Yeah.
right? And that's where you make your money. Whereas real estate, you can do all different kinds of things, right? You can buy and flip, you can do construction, you can whatever, right? I'm not really in the real estate game, but there's so many different ways that you can make money, buy and rent out or whatever, right? There's so many different ways you can make money within real estate, and trading is the same way, right? It's you kind of choose which lane you want to go down, and then you hyper focus on that lane, and then you get it done. And then you can start to branch into the dispatching or the schools or whatever else there is that kind of
Hmm.
complements what you already do.
That's cool.
Josh, can I jump in? Can you guys hear me? My internet is so bad.
You're
Yep.
good. Yeah, you're good.
Josh, a lot on the show we talk about how people ascended to their journey. You know what I mean? And I think a guy like you, if somebody watching today might think to themselves, wow, Josh must have always known about Amazon. He must have always been super smart with trucking. He must always have just known these things. But I know, having spent time with you, that's actually not where you started. And you actually made a huge splash. I believe it was YouTube is where you've made a huge splash on like the marketing and the selling behind YouTube and some of those things. But maybe could you tell us your origin story on how you've gotten to where you're at? Because I think you're obviously a COO of a powerful company doing powerful things. Mike is an amazing dude, the CEO that you work with. I know you guys have a good symbiotic relationship on the things that you pull and push, and his strengths complement your strengths and his weaknesses. Yeah, like you guys work together well with your weaknesses. You guys complement each other. Maybe just speak to that a little.
Yeah. So again, I'll go more of the quick story here. I actually started out in the army, and I was living normal life, doing the normal things, going to work all day, every day, leaving my family, and the not the first time I left, because when you're surrounded around people like in the army, and I've met some of my best friends that'll be lifelong friends in the army, but when you're surrounded around people in the army, it becomes normal to leave your family, right? It becomes normal to not be with your kids for a year out like and miss all this stuff. And the first time that I left to go overseas, it was not. It didn't hit me as hard. Um, but the second time that I left, I missed the first 9 months of my son's life, and that was I got to come home for when he was born. I was there for 2 weeks, and then I was gone for the next 9 months. And that one was a tougher pill for me to swallow, because you realize that those are 9 months that you'll never be there, like you'll never have to have that experience with your kids.
Yeah.
So during that time, I spent hours on my computer, basically learning how to make money online. That's the simple, most cliche Google search do, and it's what I did, and that's how I actually got connected with Mike, and then I got into like trading and commodities, and that was when crypto was starting to, do its thing. Started getting into crypto, and I didn't get too heavy into that, but I got really heavy into forex, and the benefit that I had that most people don't have, and this is like it was almost like a blessing in disguise, being away, is when I got out of work at 5 o'clock on most days, 5 o'clock. It was 2 o'clock in the morning here in the States. So my wife and kids are sleeping for the next 7 hours. So during that time, I have no distractions, and I could sit on my computer and I could have just both my screens up, and I could learn and make money and figure out what I need to do. I ended up leaving when I came back stateside. I had a skill that like no one could take away from me, right? And the skill was I learned how to make money online. And the only reason I had that skill was because I was put into a desperate situation, being away and realizing I don't ever want to do this again, and having the time freedom, just because not because I had money freedom, right? But having the time freedom because I was on the other side of the world, that I didn't have any distractions because I chose to not have any distractions. So I think it's important to know, like, that's where my journey started, was the realization of I don't want to do what I'm doing now
Yeah.
anymore, right? Figuring that part out. Um, but fast forward, I ended up getting an Amazon store, actually the same stores that we sell here at WAG. I ended up getting an Amazon store, and I'll just say that store made me a lot of money, more money than I could even fathom. And at this time, I was still in the Army, and I'm supposed to have 4 years left on my contract. And what I was on like my second contract. It was a 6 year contract. I was 2 years into my 6 year contract, and it started getting really hard for me to go into the office, and work, especially when we were about to leave again. So I ended up having, you know, I had a pretty top level job. I won't get too much into that, but I had a pretty high level job to where I worked with really, really high ranking people. And because of that, I was able to get the signatures and stuff that I needed to be able to do what I needed. And then I was able to actually get out of the Army early, with like good terms. And again, I think that is just a testament to who are you talking to, right? Like, who are you surrounding yourself around? The only reason I was able to do that was because of the people that I was around, right? Which is the same thing that happens in business. But Aaron, to actually answer your question, not to keep going on, but to
That's
actually answer
good.
your question, I started out in, like I said, in Amazon, and I did extremely well. I ended up getting out of the Army, and I didn't work for 2 years, and that's what I referred to earlier as like quote unquote retirement. And during that time, I started getting into YouTube, and just because I was bored, I didn't have a job for 6 months, and I was just at home, and I did exactly what I wanted to do. Right, like throughout the Army, my whole thing was like, I want to be there for my kids. I want to drop them off at school. I want to pick them up every day. I don't want to miss anything. Like, that was my mentality because I had just missed it. Right, so I was doing that, but then you start getting bored. Right, when you're at home every day just doing nothing, it's it's not as fun as it sounds. So got into YouTube, and I started doing really well with YouTube, just on my own. I hired a few VAs that were helping me out and doing their thing, and ended up doing well. And at the same time, my Amazon store is still pumping. And then Mike actually came to me and asked if I wanted to do YouTube with WAG, and I was like, no, not at all. No, I have no want to get back into anything like that. And then he asked me again, and actually the third time he asked me, he brought up this word legacy, and that's a big word for me because my little brother actually passed away, and the last things that he said before he passed away was, the things that you do for yourself are gone when you are gone, but the things that you do for others will remain as your legacy. So
Wow.
when Mike used the word legacy on me, and I want to build a legacy and I want to help other people, it directly like kind of went back to kind of how I live my life now. And ever since my brother passed, and that's kind of like the quote that I live by. It's tattooed on my body. It's the quote that I live by. And the things that you do for others remain as your legacy. So when I looked at all the quote unquote success, if you want to call it that I've had so far, with my own stuff, it was very me driven, right? I'm the only one getting paid. I'm the only one doing this. None of my friends are doing anything well, or I haven't touched any lives. I've only been able to help myself do what I want to do for myself, which is be at home with my family. So when Mike hit me with that legacy word, it was really something that, like, it was an instant switch for me to say, I like, let's do this. Let's go impact 1,000 lives. Let's go impact 10,000 lives, and be able to really push and do something bigger than just stay at home with my family every day. So that's a big, um, way that I guess I got to where I'm at now. And I started out, just kind of being a client of Wealth Accelerators, and now I'm one of the owners and the COO of the company that did a lot for me before I was any of this stuff. So it's really cool, kind of see how all the dominoes fell, but it's a fun time. I enjoy it.
Josh, I think, man, so good, dude. I feel, thank God you have 17 verticals, because we can bring back 17 different times and hear about all the more of the wealth that you've got to share. It's so good, man, having you on today. Man, so appreciate your friendship. So appreciate the partnership we get to do with WAG. And man, grateful for you. Thank you for spending time with us today on Ops Experts Club. And man, there's nothing we could add to that. Taryn Turner, we couldn't add anything good to that because Josh did such a great job. So thank you so much, brother. So appreciate you, especially the last minute grab and just the wealth you gave us today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks, Josh.
awesome. We'll
Yep,
see
yep.
you guys next week on Ops Experts Club.
See you
Bye.
guys.